Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Good. So my name is Collin and I'm the founder of a company called New Scooters for Less. I started the company back in 2004 when I was a student here at the University of Florida. I came in to UF in the year 2000. It's very interesting to me because last week with September 11th and everything, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, the students today were probably babies when that happened. And I was actually here at UF. I lived in an apartment complex called University Terrace West down on 20th Avenue. And I remember that morning waking up to my radio alarm with KISS 105.3, which is still around, and hearing about a plane hitting the tower and waking up, immediately turning on my TV to see and witness the second plane hit that tower. And so it's just interesting to me that much time, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember all of my time at UF like it was yesterday. And the one thing I can assure you guys is that your time here at UF is gonna go by super quick. And then the next 18 years will go by super quick. And I'm sure many of you might be back speaking in front of this class. So just prepare yourself, because I feel like I'm 20 years old, but I'm 37. So I would really like to spend most of the time answering any questions that you guys might have, whether it's about entrepreneurship, marketing, anything. But let me just bring a little bit more context to who I am, why I started this company, how it's evolved into the other things that I'm involved in. Basically, I was the student that was sitting at that bus stop when I went out to, outside of my apartment down 20th Avenue. You guys familiar with 20th Avenue on the west side of campus, right? Still a 2-lane road. I would go out in the morning, sit there waiting for this bus, and this bus would just drive by with these words across the top that said, "Full bus." And it would just drive by, and it used to drive me crazy. And then, in my last semester, which was, in 2004, I'm sitting there and I'm doing what you're supposed to do, right? I'm going to the career showcase. I'm dressed up in my suit and tie. I have my resume all nice and laid out, and I'm going around from recruiter to recruiter, and I'm going up to them and I'm saying, "Hi, how are you?" And they're asking me, "So Collin, why do you want to work for our company?" And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I don't. That was the only thing that was going through my mind. And I just realized that was not for me, and quickly started panicking. Like, what am I gonna do with the rest of my life? What am I gonna do with the rest of my life? The good news is that if you don't know, it's fine, because it's gonna change a million times. Everything that I thought I was going to do never played out, right? I was following my passions. I was doing the things that I had interest in. I worked at Rock 104, which was the rock station, which is now Gator 103.7. I was on the promotions team. I was emceeing Battle of the Bands. I was interning at a recording studio called Skylab Recording Studios. I played trumpet in the Gator marching band. I played trumpet in a local ska band. I thought my life was 100% gonna go into the music world. That was all the way up till January 2004 when I went to Career Showcase. And after I realized that Career Showcase wasn't the thing, and that bus drove by again with a full bus, these light bulbs started going off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a problem. If I'm having this problem, how many other students are having this problem? And I decided that motor scooters were going to be the way to fix this problem. Jumped headfirst into something that I didn't know very much about at all, and failed my way to success, if you will. Started the company in March of 2004, graduated in May of 2004. 2 months in, I was already so in love with what I was doing that I did not walk on stage at graduation. I was just ready for school to be done. Now, 15 years later, we've created one of the top scooter dealerships in the country. I'm being honored I'm excited because there's an expo next week. I'm being paid to go to an expo to speak. They're paying for my hotel, travel, everything, to go speak at this expo because we've created one of the top dealerships in the country. And it's amazing to me to see like what I thought my life held, you know, this music realm, all this stuff. I'm like, nope, not at all. And went a completely different direction. And last year, you know, I'll take a little step back. I feel like if there's one thing that I've done well as an entrepreneur, I've always been able to recognize opportunity and then seize it. And so last year, in early 2018, we were doing an influencer marketing campaign where we were working with a local YouTuber who had 20,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel. She now has over 100,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel. But we were like, you know, let's do a promo video. Let's highlight. She was, you know, just an influencer here on campus. I'm like, let's do a campaign. Let's show, you know, scooter culture in Gainesville, and let's have her as a student talk about it, talk about the impact that scooters have had. And, you know, we created this, or she created her own vlog, but at the same time, we decided that we were going to film it as well and make a promo video to highlight that we were the #1 genuine dealer in the country that year. Made this video, and it was all about new scooters for less, #1 dealer. It was really well done. But I had decided, you know what, let's do something different. Let's go ahead and make a second version of this video. Let's cut out new scooters for less. Let's insert our distributor's information, Genuine Scooter Company, and let's make it look like we made this promo video for Genuine Scooter Company. We did. We sent it to Genuine Scooter Company and said, hey guys, here's a free video from us to you. Give this to all your dealers. They can put it on the screens inside their dealerships. They can share it on social media. And they came back and said, hey, this is awesome. Why don't you, or how much would it cost to do this for every scooter that we sell? And the next day we decided that we had come to an agreement to make videos for all of their scooters. And just like that, we're like, man, maybe we should create a media company. We had already been doing, that's a pretty important part. We had already been doing a lot of video content through New Scooters for Less. We created a vlog back in 2017 and had really just kind of started sharing the ins and outs of our company. So we were very familiar with video. And so when this opportunity came to make this promo video, we did it. And that kind of launched this new entity. And so here we are. We just celebrated. We're a little over a year in now. We officially launched in August of 2018. And so now we have a digital media agency that focuses on 3 core areas. It's video, social media, and personal branding. And that's where I'm at today. There's so many details in that, and I would love to answer any questions that you guys might have. It's funny, but before we do that, one of the things that, I thought as I was walking here, literally, I'm thinking to myself, okay, how can I bring you guys the most amount of value? And the number one thing that I constantly get asked is, if you were gonna do it all over again, right? If you were gonna go back 18 years, 19 years and start your college career over, what would you do differently? And there's three main things. One, I would 100% build as many relationships as I possibly can. Even when I think about the early days of New Scooters for Less, in 2004 when I started this company, I was just in the grind. I was at my desk working really hard. I wasn't getting out, I wasn't meeting people, I wasn't building connections. And then several years later, I realized that was important, and I got out and started doing that, and my business really started taking off. I really started building key relationships within the community, and I sit on the chamber board of directors now. I've got personal friends who are just big time entrepreneurs here in this community. And those relationships have, one, mentored me in a lot of ways, but also just built my companies. People like to do business with people that they like and people that they know. The second thing I would say is, start investing early. I love the University of Florida. Absolutely love it. But one of the big things that I've learned about college is that college teaches you how to work for somebody else. Okay, there's a couple books out there. One's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. If there was 2 books I was going to tell you to go and read right now, one would be called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the next one would be a follow-up to that called The Cash Flow Quadrant. These books just opened my eyes to, the potential of investing, right? Investing into assets that were going to put money into my pocket, because we're taught how to go work for somebody else. The cash flow quadrant, if you can picture a quadrant, right? Can I maybe draw it?
Yeah, sure. I'll set it up for you.
Thank you. So if you picture a quadrant, right? This is what the cash flow quadrant is. You have E, this is employee, this is self-employed, this is business, as in big business and like systems. Think about this as like systems. And then I. Okay? This is what college teaches you right here. College teaches you how to be an employee or how to basically create your own job. Me, very much so, I'm in this quadrant, right? Self-employed. Most of you will probably be in this quadrant when you leave school, right? Employee. Now, the biggest lesson that I've learned in 15 years is that these people work for their money. These people have their money work for them. And now you can be in multiple quadrants, right? Like I could be an employee somewhere and still be investing money into assets or stocks or whatever it is. Business systems, when this is talking about big business, this would be like a business that you own. Like this is my goal, is to get New Scooters for Less to a point where I have this asset, but I'm not involved in the day-to-day. In fact, it's probably being run better without me. If I can go on vacation for a year and not step foot in my business, then that's an asset. That's a system that's putting money into my pocket that I'm not necessarily in control of. So my goal is to get here. And I wish I would have learned this lesson a lot sooner. A lot. If I would have known this at y'all's age, I'd be much wealthier right now. Much wealthier. Look, because I've just been working so hard for my money, and like now I'm in a place where I'm investing. I'm getting out there. I'm investing into other companies, or this is my goal really in the next 3 to 5 years. Is I want to be investing into other companies, into real estate, into things that are going to start putting money into my pocket, not necessarily me out working so hard all the time for my money. So that's the second big thing. And the third thing, if I would go back and start doing it all over again, is invest into my personal brand. Okay, this is a big thing right now where the school system, excuse me, let me get some water. Where the school system is probably teaching you guys to like really focus on having a perfect resume and all this kind of, like that's great, but just realize that the CEOs that you guys are going to be going at and speaking to and working for are probably going to be my age, 37, 47, 50, like the old school CEO, 60 plus, they're retiring. I don't look at resumes, not very often. What am I looking at? I'm Googling your name. I'm Googling you. I'm trying to find everything I can on the internet about you. I want to see your portfolio, a website. I tell people all the time, you need to have a personal domain, collinaustin.com. That should have your resume on it. That should show the things that you're involved in, right? These show your personal brand, whether that's through the activities that you're involved in school. Build an online portfolio. Now, again, just like marketing, we got to keep in mind who our audience is. If you're applying for a job and it is an old school HR department or old school CEO, then sure, you're going to need a nice resume. But I've just seen a transition where a lot of people are applying with CEOs like myself, where at 37 years old, I'm not looking at that stuff. I'm looking at your portfolio. So those are 3 primary things. And guys, like I would love to just talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Answer any questions that you guys have. I have a lot of experience, obviously in business, entrepreneurship, but also in marketing and personal branding. And I would love to talk about anything. Yes, sir.
So there's about 50,000 students at UF, correct?
Correct.
How many do you think own scooters? Like, what are your average sales annually?
I didn't look at the stats last year in terms of decals sold, but in 2017, about 6,800 decals were sold. So a pretty substantial amount. Now for us, it's interesting. We're entering a new phase, if you will, because we've put hundreds of scooters on the road the last 3 or 4 years, and now we're starting to see a lot of those students selling them to each other. So we've saturated the market, and we're at a place where, we need. I don't want my biggest competitor to be students. And it is. Like, I don't even worry about our competition, but I actually worry about the used scooters being sold in the market.
And would you say you make your money from repairs or from sales of scooters?
Our business is about 70% sales, 20% service, and 10% storage and accessories, other little things. But sales is definitely the core, which is not typical in our industry. Most of like motorcycle shops and other dealerships, they make most of their money in the service department. So, yes, sir.
How many repair requests do you get a day?
Too many. And it's really just because of the quantity that we've put on the road over the last several years. In fact, at the beginning of this year, we actually made a change that I was really nervous about, and that was solely servicing scooters that we sell. So if it's not one of the brands that we sell, we actually defer that service to another dealership, just because we want to ensure that we can take care of our customers. The difficulty of that is that we still deal with a lot of seasonality. So, right now we're still trying to get caught up from, my team's been working till 8 p.m., trying to get caught up on service because we just got a huge influx from school starting back. Yes?
How was it building such a big culture?
How is it building such a big culture? Difficult. It's funny, I was talking to a friend about culture this week, and I said, you spend so much time and you invest so much time into building a great culture, and in a matter of seconds, it can fall apart. You get one bad seed, you make a bad hire, like that cancer in there can just destroy a company culture. So it's amazing to me how quickly it can crumble and how much time it takes to build. Your company culture is it's going to stem from your values as a human. So for me, it originally just came from the kind of person that I am. And then when we got to a point where we had, 10 to 12 team members, we actually sat down. I came in with a different perspective of hey guys, this isn't my company anymore. This is our company. What are our values? And it was fun when we did that because a lot of the answers that came out were things that we'd been doing for years, right? It was create and recreate the UCE, the ultimate customer experience. Don't believe the hype. This was our way of saying stay humble. Don't let customers be thanking us. We need to be thanking them. And so we have 12 core values that we really use to guide the decisions that we make as a company. And that's why we've been able to have such a healthy culture. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question more about how you started. It probably was stressful, trying to figure out where you're gonna get all this stuff to make it happen. So how did you get funding? How did you get your scooters, the facilities? How did you do all that stuff to get it actually running, people coming in?
Yeah, good question. So in that time of 2000, right at the end of my college career when all this stuff was starting to happen, I actually had built a relationship with a friend. We were on the same on the same intramural soccer team, and he was doing something that really impressed me, which was called drop shipping. So he had established a relationship with a guy in California who was importing these little stand-up gas-powered scooters, and he was selling them online on eBay. He would, just to use round numbers, say he would sell it for $250 on eBay, collect the order, send $200 to the distributor in California. That guy would ship it to his end customer. So he was collecting just money off the top by running these eBay auctions. And I was like, dude, you're really smart. And so I continued to pick his brain on it. And I was like, man, out of curiosity, how difficult would it be to do this yourself? What if you imported these things yourself? What would that look like? And so I kept asking these questions. He still had 2 years of school left. And basically through that process, we decided, let's combine these two ideas. Me of like focusing on, hey, we need to help college students get to and from class. Like that was my mission. Like let's get college students to and from class at their convenience, no waiting for the bus, no looking for parking. And at the same time, let's start importing these things and selling these scooters online, these little gas-powered, they were really like toys. Let's sell these things online, and we'll have this wholesale part of the business, this retail part of the business. And it took off. I mean, we did $800,000 in sales by the end of that year, by the end of 2004. And by the end of 2005, we did $2.8 million in sales. So the problem there is that he and I were more excited about business. We're more excited about making money than having this real guiding purpose. And ultimately our visions were not the same, and we ended up splitting in January of 2006. I went and started really focusing 100% on the retail side, and just really had to start all over. To answer your question about the funding, he had $19,000 that he had made through that drop shipping process, and I had all of this time. So he was still in school, and I said, look, I was like, you put in the $19,000, I'll put in my time, we'll be 50-50 partners, we'll pay you your $19,000 back once we've earned it, and then move forward from there. And it worked. The other thing with funding is I had really good credit because my dad had put me on his credit card account. So when I went to buy textbooks and stuff, I would use that credit card, and had basically left school with really good credit. And we put way too much money on credit cards as well, which I don't recommend for funding a company. But that's what we had done. So yes, ma'am.
So now scooters are everywhere, right? Like pretty much everyone has a scooter. And so there's like parking all over campus, and they're increasing the scooter parking. Even at my apartment, they just added a scooter parking section. So at the time when you were building this business and you saw an opportunity in the market and that this might grow into something huge, which it did, how was the parking situation for scooters on campus, and how did you figure that?
Yeah, so it's interesting because when we look at the University of Florida over these 15 years, we never really played a role in any of that. It just naturally evolved with the increasing number of decals being sold. I think UF just said, all right, we need to do something about this. Now, when we started, you don't have the scooter parking that you have today. They were like, if this was like at the end of parking spots, you would have just those hashed areas, you know what I mean? And in the middle, there would be a sign that said motorcycle and scooter parking. And there'd probably be like 3 or 4 scooters in there. Well, as we continued to sell more, there would be like scooters crisscrossed all in this block. And if your scooter was right here, man, you're like trying to like solve this puzzle of moving scooters around so you can get yours out. And I think at that point, the university was just like, okay, we need to actually create these little, slide-in parking spots. And that just organically happened. Yes, sir.
Have you tried to enter any other markets or only Gainesville?
So we've only stayed in Gainesville up to this point. And the reason being is we looked at, expanding to multiple markets several times. The closest ones have been the University of Georgia and Auburn. Now, the trick is like a lot of them have their own laws. So, you look at like Alabama, for example, like you need a motorcycle license in order to operate a 49cc scooter. So in the state of Florida, you don't, right? You just need a standard driver's license. So, we have to like, is that going to affect things? What kind of impact would that have? I own domains like auburnscooters.com, and I've had them for years, right? It's like, this could possibly happen. Now, the biggest factor there is we would get to a point where we're like, all right, does it make sense to expand? And we would look at data, right? So we're looking at the data of our competitors. One of our competitors has 4 locations in the state of Florida, and we sell more scooters from our 1 location than he does in all 4 of his. So when we were looking at that data, we're like, man, we need to make sure that we're maxing out this dealership first before we even consider expanding.
do other college campuses not have like as many scooters as we do? Like it's obviously.
No.
Yeah, most.
It's funny, we're the example.
We're the first one.
We're,
I didn't
yeah,
know that.
in terms of the quant,
I can agree. When I came for my interview, that was the first thing I noticed. Just walking across University Avenue was, why are there so many scooters here?
I mean, kind of going back to what Kaylee was saying about the, you know, her complex having parking and stuff. You know, I've seen the city now requires like scooter parking in the zoning when these complexes get built. And when the new Publix went in, like I was like freaking out because they got like this whole scooter row, you know, and I'm like, this is awesome because we've had that impact. We created that just by selling scooters. So we're the example, right? And it's funny because, you know, the University of Iowa, for example, the dealerships there, like when they started establishing, like we started having dealerships contact us. And they're like, hey, can you kind of like walk us through like what you're doing and like talk to us? And I would chat with them. And now other campuses are really starting to grow with their scooter cultures. And it's really stemmed from us. We've been the example. And now I'm like, it should have been us. Yeah. We should have moved faster. We should have done that. And like now I'm like friends with all these other dealerships, so I'm not gonna like go into their markets and compete with them, you know.
Also, wouldn't it be harder in like the northern states because no one really wants to ride the scooters when it's freezing?
Oh, that's definitely a factor, but like one of my good friends owns a dealership in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and like he like kills it. I mean, from an electric bicycle, even like with the electric bicycles right now, like he's one of the top dealerships in the country with e-bikes and some other things. So it's really fascinating. It's just different, right? Like here in Florida, you know, the weather drops below 60 degrees. We're like, I'm not riding my scooter. It's just different. So yes, sir.
Yeah, so you mentioned how you don't want to compete with other students selling their used scooters. Have you considered making like a buyback program where you kind of like facilitate that? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a website called buymyscooter.com for a little while. And this was a place where we would kind of facilitate the transaction, or if you were selling your used scooter, you could bring it to us. We would like inspect it and certify it to make sure it was actually good for somebody else to buy and make a little bit off the top. We just found it incredibly difficult to compete with like Facebook Marketplace and these other, you know, when you can just get online on Facebook and like list it for free. It was more time and effort than what we were receiving from a return on the investment. So we just decided to focus our efforts elsewhere. We're looking at 2020. We're like, okay, we just need to go buy everything. So we want to be the company that's like buying up the used inventory. Yes.
You put a lot of like emphasis on personal branding. What is one cool or unique way that you've seen a student over the years like brand themselves in like that unique way?
A student? I think that young lady who that we used like for the influencer marketing campaign, you know, she was just telling her story at UF. She was vlogging. She created a YouTube channel, was telling her story, showing her day to day, you know, talking about her college life. And now when you go to Google and you think about it, I mean, this is exactly why we wanted her to vlog about us, because we knew that students who find out in February that they got into the University of Florida, all right, life at the University of Florida. They type that into Google or into YouTube, and they find this vlog, and here's a young lady who's talking about scooter culture and how New Scooters for Less has had this major impact on Gainesville, on the university. You know, that's good for us, right? And also good for her, like her brand is being built, and she's become an influencer, and she actually works. I think she works for Disney now. You know, doing that. I think she like goes around Disney and takes pictures and posts them on Instagram and gets paid for it. And I've seen multiple influencers in my career. We actually have a podcast and I interview a lot of them. One young lady I interviewed in January and asked her point blank on the podcast, said, hey, how much money are you gonna make on Instagram this year? And she said, I'll make between $80,000 and $100,000. She messaged me like 5 months later and was like, I've already hit it.
That's great.
Yeah, and so it's it's building brand, and these are young people who are able to do that. Now, it does take some talent. You have to have that authenticity and that connection, and but you guys know it. I mean, you're on Instagram and Snapchat and everywhere else too. Yeah.
How soon after you started your company did competitors come into Gainesville, and like how do you differentiate yourself from them?
Yeah, I mean, we've had competitors from the very beginning. I think when you start looking at competition, the problem is everybody gets so focused on what the competition is doing instead of focusing on what they're doing. And one of the things that we've done really well is not worry about what the competition is doing, but worry about what we're doing and how we can be different. My biggest thing was always customer service. You know, and it's funny talking, and this is why we've been able to really develop into a digital media agency, because the things that I've done were coaching other companies how to do. A good example is the last several years, you know, I noticed that a lot of college students were using Snapchat. And so I made a business card that was my Snapchat code. And when they bought a scooter, I'd go up to them and say, hey, here you go, this goes directly to me. If you ever have a question about your scooter, just feel free to reach out to me. And so a student would have trouble starting their scooter 10 o'clock at night on a weekday, dealerships closed. They would pull out their phone, take a little recording, Collin, I don't know what's going on, like, can you help? And I would help, you know, this young lady get her scooter started on a weeknight at 10 o'clock p.m. when the dealerships closed. Well, those were the things that we were doing that our competition wasn't, and that was a big differentiator. And when it came to easing the minds of parents on whether or not they should, you know, get their student a scooter, those things helped in the decision-making process. It's like, all right, we know that our daughter or our son's going to be taken care of. Yes, sir.
So now you're going to see a couple more competitors coming in with the Bird scooters and the electric scooters. What is your strategy, and are you moving towards a more environmental approach?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's something that we've been asked about a lot. We're still trying to analyze what's best for our dealership. We don't think it's going to impact like us completely, because if you live out by the mall, you're not going to drive one of those things from campus to the mall, right? But, you know, on an in-campus, like if you live in a dorm, then you might opt for that versus one of our scooters, right? So we've looked at selling them. We've actually looked at being part of the Bird. They have like a licensing type thing you can do. My biggest problem is, I mean, maybe you guys can tell me, like, I don't want to invest the money to find these things in ponds, burn piles in your apartments. You know, like, the one thing that I do really well is I educate myself. When this type of stuff starts happening, you know, I get on Google and I like subscribe to the keywords. So I get an email every day of articles across the nation talking about Bird scooters, and 90% of them are absolute nightmares. It's like, oh, we're trying this new program. 3 months later, the city of Chicago has pulled the scooters out, you know, whatever it is. It's like, we've pulled them back. We're not doing this anymore. And the other factor is that most of these companies are not profitable yet. So for me to invest into something, I want to make sure it's going to make my business money, not create more headache. So we'll continue to evaluate it. We've looked at selling them. The margins aren't, you know, where we want them to be. So I think we are in evolution. I think that's super important, right? In any business, if anybody in here thinking about starting a company, okay, good. Like, evolve or die. Like, that's business 101. We're in a climate in 2019, 2020, you know, if you don't evolve, your businesses will die. So you just have to constantly keep a pulse on the market, do your research, and evolve. One of the things that we think will really start to take off are the electric bicycles. We've seen them take off in other markets. You know, you look at it compared to scooters. You don't need a parking decal for campus. Saves $160. You don't need to get your license and registration. That saves a couple $100. So I've already saved you nearly $400 right there by buying an e-bike that does 20 miles an hour, that you can drive pretty much everywhere in the bicycle lane. And Gainesville is also a very bicycle-friendly community. So these are things that I absolutely see taking off. So we'll evolve. Somebody, a friend of mine told me, not a quote, but like a really good story, right? It's talked about how the train industry was that was the industry way back in the day, right? Trains. And then the automobile came out, right? And the trains did not evolve. And what started to happen? Trains started dying, automobiles started going up. And what the train company should have realized is that they weren't in the train business, they were in the transportation business. And so I'm basically taking the same approach. If 3 years from now, we're not selling any scooters, I'm perfectly okay with it. Got to evolve. Yes, sir.
Do you guys rent out scooters or ever had the idea of like renting scooters?
We have, but very similar to, that scenario in terms of damage. Look, with rentals and that kind of thing, I mean, they just weren't taken care of. They got beat up a lot. Just created more headaches than, revenues for us. So we pulled out of it. But real quick, I mean, on the birds, has anybody ridden one of these things somewhere else? Okay. And if they were in Gainesville, like, would you guys take care of it? If they were on the roads for rent, right? Like, it's kind of like you're gonna do whatever you want on it. It's a toy.
I mean, I wouldn't burn them.
Yeah. All right, so got everybody riled up. I don't want to invest all that money into them and then have to pull them all out. I think that they get destroyed. This is my personal instinct based off the research that I've done. But that does not mean, you guys, I could tell you no, and then a year from now you'd be like, hey, that guy from New Scooters Flood said he was never getting into this business, and now he's got 5,000 of these things on the road. We just constantly have to keep our pulse on it and evolve. And if we feel like that it will generate a return for our business, I'm all about it. But I want to make sure that they're not going to get destroyed.
Like to have like a check and adjust mindset?
What?
So is it like to have a check and adjust mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest, one of the greatest characteristics of a solid entrepreneur is the ability to adapt and to pivot quickly. A lot of times, I see a lot of people get so hung up on decisions, and to the point that they never make a decision. I'm very much like, all right, let's make a decision. Let's start going in a direction, and if we realize that it's not the right direction, let's pivot. So I'm constantly just adjusting and changing my mind, and I think that's okay. Yes, sir. You had a question?
Going back to the personal brand,
Yeah.
the importance of it. What do you think is the missing link for people that have a following and to monetize that following?
What do I think is the missing link?
Yeah, like so many people have like a certain amount of followers, but they're not really making money off of them.
I mean, do they want to?
If you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think if.
It works for Disney now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you wanted to, monetize your personal brand, you absolutely can, right? So with some of the personal brands that we work with within our agency, we're constantly asking what's their end goal. So if their end goal is to become a public speaker and speak on stage at major conferences, then we know what kind of content we need to capture for that personal brand, what types of things we need to be showing off, and on what platforms. So we might be like targeting LinkedIn, C-suite executives of speaker bureaus or just major companies. Does that make sense? So I think it ultimately depends on if that's a goal of that personal brand. I think a lot of people don't necessarily want to monetize their personal brands. Yes, sir.
Something on a point of evolving. A lot of governments, forums, they are focusing on environmental awareness. So how do you actually think that the market trends will shift from the general scooters to the electric scooters?
I do. I think we're, when I see major companies like Vespa, for example, Vespa's been creating motor scooters since the 40s. They just put out their first electric scooter this year. I do believe that trend will continue. We're in an electric revolution, and whether it's gas scooters just becoming electric scooters or a shift towards more electric products, I do think that that's something that's going to happen.
Sorry, follow up on that. Would you what would be your strategy if to break into that market from your current market? Would you have a different strategy, or have you ever thought about it, or would you ever thought about it?
Yeah, I mean, we're researching electric products all the time. And it's the same thing, kind of going back to the very start, of our company. When we first bought the first handful of motor scooters, like, they were garbage. The first ones we tried out were garbage. I was like, I can't sell these to anybody. Ended up piecing them out for parts, selling the parts off in order to recuperate my money, and then I had to start all over. And you constantly have to look at finding what's the best, doing your research, and ensuring, for us, quality is such an important piece of our values that we have to ensure that we're selling the very best products on the market. Yes, ma'am.
It was kind of a follow-up question to his. What's the MSRP on that Vespa electric scooter?
It's expensive, yeah.
Selling it yet?
Yes, we are. They're $86.99. They're like, close to $9,000.
Do you plug them in, or how does that work?
Yep, you sure do. It's got like a beautiful, again, like Vespa products, you guys, like Vespa's the Cadillac Mercedes of the scooter world, right? So it's definitely up there. I mean, the dash, everything is completely electronic. You can hook your phone up to it. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff. Yes, sir.
So I know you guys have that location north on 13th there. Where were you guys before? How did you end up getting that location? How was that?
Yeah, so again, going back to startup life, right? Our very first location, keeping things very bootstrap, which I 100% recommend. We're in a world, if you're thinking about starting a business, it's easy to get wrapped up into all the unicorns, right? And going out and raising thousands and thousands of dollars and all this sort of stuff and giving away our businesses, giving away the equity. I actually would advise against that if possible. I do believe that there's a point where you need to, and depending on the type of business, to raise capital in order to scale. But we were a couple of kids who found a place 8 miles north of town, a warehouse, paying, $1,500 a month, keeping it really, really inexpensive. And as our business grew, we moved a little bit closer. So our second location was over there next to the Publix on Main Street. So we're about 2 miles away. And now we're, less than a half mile north on 13th Street. I actually own that property. So I ended up buying that property, and that alone will be one of the best investments I've ever made. Yes, sir.
Are you involved with lobbying like UF or the city to increase scooter parking?
Not really, but my relationships with the students have been so great that student government often communicates to me, or they send me snaps of like, hey, scooter parking's on the agenda. And so it's kind of nice to know what's going on. I do stay in tune with the 5-year plans that UF puts out and looking at those and seeing what transportation discussions are happening within those 5-year plans. And then again, like ensuring that we're evolving and able to adjust. Our biggest thing is scooters were a solution to a problem, and we need to make sure that whatever our business does to contribute to this city, that we continue to be a solution to the problem and not more of the problem, right? Like parking, if you guys have seen scooter parking, it's starting to become a problem. The scooters are getting like really, really, really tight, and people, so we want to ensure that we're able to evolve to always be part of the solution and not be adding to a problem. Yes, ma'am.
When you first started, what was the process of working together with the distributor? Like, were the requirements, like how many scooters you had to buy, like when you first started?
Yeah, we had to fill out credit applications, and we had to sign personal guarantees and that kind of stuff. But you just have to keep going. You might get a no from a couple of them, but I don't remember getting a lot of no's when it came to that. When people were like, all right, you're gonna buy 10 of my scooters? Here you go, like, sure, let's sign you up, Now, in the early days, we had to use our money. We didn't have credit to go buy a bunch of inventory, whereas now, we probably have close to $1 million of credit to where we can go and floor the units with bank money. So it's a little bit different now, but that came from what? That came from sales. Another huge point in business is that results matter. So if you start selling and you build up to the #1 dealership in the country, then that allows you to more negotiation power, whether it's with distributors or with anyone. Anybody's question? Yes. Try to go this way.
How do you find employees who help the company culture as opposed to people who kind of, how you were mentioning, someone that can disrupt it?
Yeah, there's so many different opinions on this. You're gonna hear a lot in business world, like hire slow, fire fast. And the truth is, you just really don't know until you bring somebody in. You can go off their resume, you can ask them a bunch of interview questions, and you can really try to make sure that you're getting the right hire. And we've gotten really good at that. But sometimes you don't know until they're in the environment, you see how they interact with everybody else. The key is when you recognize that somebody's not a good fit, removing them as quickly as possible. And that can be challenging, because if there's one thing that I hate about being an employer, it's firing people. It's not fun. It's the thing that I hate the most. Yes, sir.
Almost 2 years ago at my graduation celebration, I listened to a speech of the CEO of Porsche.
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
About 2 years ago, I listened to a speech of the CEO of Porsche.
Porsche?
Yeah, like the automobile company. And he said that they have a long-term strategy that they want to have in 2025 about 50% of their sales direct B2C, not through dealership. How can you react on this if Vespa or the other suppliers are also doing this kind of strategic move?
Yeah, I haven't heard that in our industry at all. Doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. But, again, I think you just have to adjust. And the answer is I don't know how we would adjust in that scenario. But if you look at my entrepreneurial career, I think right now some of the stuff that I'm doing that's very smart is diversifying my income a little bit. Starting the media agency, for example, I know that I want to have a company that employs a lot of people, that has national impact, where I can work. I love the city of Gainesville, but scooter business is very restricted. It's very territorial. Unless we go set up dealerships in other cities and negotiate those dealers' licenses in those cities, it's very difficult to scale. Whereas with a media company, we work with a CEO in New York City. We work with a CEO in Chicago right now. We work with a company, another company in Los Angeles. So we're able to, work on a much broader scale. So I'm excited about the new business and the possibilities with the new business. And I think that's exactly it. I don't want to put all my eggs in the new Scooters for Less basket, even though it's 15 years and one of the top dealerships. Will it always be that way? I hope so. But I'm not going to necessarily put all my eggs in that one basket. Yes?
2 more questions.
Okay, 2 more questions.
So talk about your individual branding efforts with CollinAustin.com. Who manages that? Is that you, or do you have a team?
Yeah, so I created the website several years ago, and my team, and it's interesting. So my team will help me create a lot of content, but the content I post. So the copy, if you go to my Instagram and you're looking at a picture or an image, a graphic that has, a quote or something like that, my team created the image and the quote. I'm not a graphic designer. They made it really cool, but I posted it, I wrote all the copy, wrote the lesson, I wrote whatever it's about. Does that make sense?
Have you gotten a lot of people, I know you have a section on there, it's hire to speak at events.
Yeah.
Have you had a lot of bookings through that?
Not necessarily through that link. Usually it's people reaching out directly through a social media platform. I would say that I am most active through Instagram DM. The speaking engagement that I got, where I'm speaking next week, that was just a direct email.
Okay, so Professor said it wasn't up on your blog. It's hey, how are you going to come over here?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So you basically focus on scooters, right? But what about product diversification? For example, have you seen those new like electric longboards that everyone is riding around?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to like the electric, like the bird scooters and stuff like that. Whether it's electric skateboards, electric bicycles, again, we're gonna continue to look at the products that one, we like, that we think students are interested in. You know, we gotta like find what people want. Like, I wanna sell the stuff that you guys actually want. And ensure that there's enough profit margin there for us, because kind of going to his question about direct, you know, like what is the advantage of buying it through us versus going and buying it on Amazon, right? So we got to like make sure that we're able to deliver that value and be very clear in our messaging as to what that value is. Good. I will 100% stick around. You guys have a break?
Yeah, we have a break.
Okay, so I'll like answer a couple questions, you know, if you want to come speak to me directly. Do me a favor though, if you'll go to Instagram and connect with me there at Collin Austin. I actually asked the question in my story, just asking like what part of this you guys found the most valuable. I'd really love to know like your feedback as to what was most valuable to you from this presentation. That way I can continue to evolve it and, you know, help future students. Cool? So it's just Collin Austin with 2 L's. And thank you guys very much for having me.